Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. This week, we're going to be going over what happened around the system last week. We'll talk a little bit about what we've seen from the draft kids and the UDFA kids. And I wanted to get a little bit into player development. But before we begin, I just want to give a big thanks to all the channel members for the contribution, helping keep the lights on. All the people who share this content, hit that like button, and all the subscribers who continue engaging with us. Thank you for that. Marcus, it's been a while since we had you on. How was your summer?
That's great. Thank you. It's great to be back. Appreciate it. Good to be with you guys.
Awesome. John, how you been?
Doing okay, hanging in there. This year is really going by. I can't believe this is the last week for most of the minors.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. It gives me a break. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
exhausted, but I'll miss it. I'll be missing it in about a week or so. Um, let's just get right into it. Just do the players of the week. Going right to Tampa, you had Dax Kilby who hit 500, 579 on base percentage. Is a 1204 OPS. In extra base hits, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 4 stolen bases. Hans Montero hit 500, 615 on base, 1715 OPS, 3 extra base hits, a home run, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, 2 steals. Eric Genther hit 333, 944 OPS, an extra base hit. Marshall Toole hit 333, 945 OPS, 2 extra base hits. Willie Montero hit 316 with an 855 OPS, an extra base hit, a home run, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and Roderick Arias hit 250 with a 618 OPS, an extra base hit, and 2 RBI. Right off the bat, let me just say Dax Kilby looks amazing to me. He's looked better. He's done better than I expected, to be honest with you.
I agree with that. Yeah, his mechanics, when I saw him in Tampa, his mechanics are 100%. They're about as perfect as you can get for a prep kid. Um, there's like what I wrote about with him was he needs to build muscle, but I think there's not an awful lot of muscle that you would want to put on him. He's kind of like a Volpe in a way where you don't want to add a whole ton of muscle. But hopefully, unlike Volpe, he'll be hitting better once he moves up the system. Because Volpe, and I know you'll get into this in a little bit, but Volpe was kind of like a 250-ish hitter for most of his career, from what I remember. Um, Despite being in Tampa, he really killed it in Tampa. He was Player of the Month or Player of the Week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, want to shout out Bryce Martin Grudzielanek. He's been doing pretty decent, and I really liked his mechanics as well when I saw him. You could tell he came from baseball lineage.
Yeah, that is. People have asked me. That is Mark Grudzielanik's kid. So yeah, he does have the baseball heritage. And he has played well. I think I want to say yesterday he hit his first professional home run yesterday. I think
Yep.
he hit a triple in the second game of the doubleheader as well.
Yeah, I'm 100% on the Dax Kilby train here. I'm a believer. That's a really good looking operation, like you said. And to get him where they got him in the draft, that's awesome. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get that far down, but this is a kid you can get excited about. And I hope I'm not regretting these words a year from now, but I feel really good about him.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, 18-year-old, he's 18 years old. I didn't expect much from him, but he kind of reminds me almost of what Brendan Jones did. Of course, Brendan Jones was older when he got to Tampa, but Dax Kilby has been even better than advertised to me.
Yeah, and if anybody says defense, I'm just going to say I don't care right now. I know that there's going to be some questions there, but they'll find someplace for him to play if he can hit. So
Yeah.
yeah, feel good about him.
All right.
I think
Moving
I was
on.
going to say real quick. I think overall the draft, the kids that they've got of those that I've seen in Tampa, I think they did exceptionally well for the draft. I'm really happy with a lot of the picks. They've all come out swinging, pun intended, but yeah, they all look really really good.
Yeah, and before we move on, I just want to shout out to Jackson Lovich. He has looked amazing, amazing. I thought early on that he should have got the Brendan Jones treatment because if I'm not mistaken, before he went down with an injury, he was hitting over 600, if I'm not mistaken, since he
Yeah, it
debuted.
was like a 167 WRC plus or something like
It
that is what I
was
had.
it was
It's
something
wild.
ridiculous. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
something ridiculous. And for Dax Kilby going heading into yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he had 5 multi hits over the last 6 games, if I'm not mistaken.
that sounds right too. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I'm sorry, to your point, John, like there have been years recently, And you have to go back very far where you thought Yankees took hitters in the draft, and you'd say, well, they're just filling positions here, and they're
Yep.
nobody to pay attention to. I think over the last couple of years, and with the undrafted free agents, you have to feel pretty good when they bring a guy in that they might know what they're doing with them. So their scouts have been on a roll here for the last few years, bringing in hitters and pitchers. I feel really good about the draft side of things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let me move on to the pitching side of things. You had Franyer Herrera. He threw four shutout innings, three hits, a walk, seven strikeouts. Alan Facundo, four shutout innings. Chris Veach, three and a third shutout innings, one hit, five walks. Tyler Boudreau, 3 innings, one run, a walk, four strikeouts. I believe he was an undrafted free agent out of Texas Tech. He's looked really good in the outings that I've seen him in. And you also had Luis Serna pitched 2 and 2/3 shutout innings, a walk, four strikeouts. And shout out to Alan Facundo, who yesterday headed up that no hitter that Tampa threw in the second game. He pitched 5 of those 7 innings.
The no hitter that unfortunately doesn't count for anything,
Hey, he
which
counts
drives
to
me
them.
nuts. It drives me nuts. I mean, I'm happy for them. It's the same thing like when I saw the no hitter in the complex league. Like I was happy for them, but it's so silly that with all the double headers that we get in Tampa for all the rainouts and everything, they should count. I mean, if nothing else, just in Florida, it's like the 61 home runs that Maris hit. Put an asterisk on
Um,
That Tampa
moving
pitching
on.
staff right now, it's good to see all those guys back who were hurt earlier in the year.
it.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Kundo,
took they
Lalane, Serna, and I keep going. There's guys plus the guys who are up from the FCL.
yeah, the injuries that the rotation took at Tampa were just brutal. You had Henry Lalane, who missed almost the entire season. Alan Facundo came back a month ago, I believe. They missed Xavier Marte. Chalnia Arya should have also been up as well. Just a lot of injuries.
But that's a really interesting staff to watch. And you mentioned Chris Veach. Is he like the last of the Mohicans here? He's been there the whole year, and I thought that would be a guy who would have seen some Hudson Valley time before the year was
I mean,
up.
I just think it was a matter of there's just no room because the pitching at Hudson Valley has been so good.
I just think back to the breakout game when he was on the roster, and that was a name hadn't even heard before. So I thought, okay, maybe this is somebody who's going to make a leap. Walked a lot of guys this year, though, right?
Mm. I had a
So
question,
maybe
and
that's holding them back.
I had a question. Maybe I'll post to you guys. And for the last 2 or 3 years, Hudson Valley has been very, very good, especially on the pitching side of things. Why is it that they're not seeing that success at Tampa?
I don't know. It's been so mind-boggling and so frustrating because if you look at so this is I'll kind of flip it to you. If you look at first half Tarpons, they were I think a game and a half out or 2 games out of clinching the playoffs because they were that good. They
Yeah,
really came back
they
in
they
the
started off on fire, if I remember
yeah.
correctly.
And if you look at second half after they promoted all the kids, you start getting a lot of the FCL kids that, the FCL team was not spectacular by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's
Mhm.
a lot of what it is because a lot of what we see in Tampa is the IFA kids, the international kids, and they don't have the experience that the American kids have. And I've said this time and time again that when you get because especially if you look at like a Core Jackson, like all those guys that went straight to Hudson Valley, those are going to be the American kids that have played for what 10 years or more in some cases. They've been playing little league. Where you get the IFA kids, this is maybe their third or fourth year playing um, actual
Organized.
baseball.
Hmm.
Instead of just playing kind of like scrimmages.
That's fair.
I think that's really what it comes down to, and you have to give the coaches down here a lot of credit in the fact that they're trying to teach them a lot of different things. A lot of these guys are getting a lot of stuff thrown at them. Especially the IFA kids where they don't grow up learning off of iPads and stuff like that, so they don't know pitch shape, and you got to throw at so much RPMs, and this is how you have to have the ball move, and you got to hit at this kind of a bad angle. All this stuff that they're trying to figure out for the first time on top of playing organized games.
It's the that raw aspect of it and the
Yeah,
lack of experience in organized games. Um, Yeah. Moving on to Hudson Valley, you had Josh Moylan who hit 435. 1128 OPS, four extra base hits, four RBIs, four walks. Luis Durango, 429, 1056 OPS, an extra base hit, five RBIs. Connor McGinnis hit 333, 802 OPS, an extra base hit, two RBIs. Robbie Burnett, 300. He hit, I'm sorry, he hit 300, 933 OPS, a home run, three RBIs. Caden Kent hit 292, 778 OPS, a home run, six RBIs. And Dylan Lewis hit 292, 1035 OPS, three home runs, two RBIs, six walks, and stolen bases. And last, Core Jackson, 286 with 766 OPS, two extra base hits, two RBIs, and four walks. And let me just say, man, Dylan Lewis looks like he could be ridiculous with a little bit more experience.
He's good. I went and saw Hudson Valley game live a month ago, and I knew he was having a good year. And you see the home run power, and you
Hmm.
think there are tools there. But watching him live, I was struck by he's a good hitter. I mean, the
Hmm.
way he was making adjustments with the bat, that's somebody who really impressed me seeing him in person. So, talk about a draft win. What did they get him in the 12th round?
Yeah, I think it was the 12th round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate prospect in my eyes, and an athlete. And I think he's a smart kid. I think they really have something there.
Yeah,
Well,
I would love to see him with a little more experience, especially when he gets to double A, man, because that power looks amazing, man. I think he hit a home run. I think I want to say last week. Man, I think he hit it across the train track or something. I don't remember how far it went, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
and it's crazy because if you think about it, because when he got drafted, it was Queen's University of Charlotte. And I'm looking it up like, where the heck is that?
Right.
Like that's literally a gem of
The
a
great
draft
find.
pick.
Yeah.
That's a crazy good find.
Yep.
And that's kind of something that they're really starting to get into is their bread and butter is the SEC, right? They draft a lot of Auburn and Vanderbilt and like all those kind of those core teams that are always really really good. They're always going to have that really good talent, but then you start getting into oh man, I'm drawing a blank. The kid that got promoted to Somerset today, that started for Somerset, the pitcher.
Kyle Carr.
Outcome.
Yes. So you look at him, like he came out of a JUCO, like that's, and you look at Rafael Flores coming out of a JUCO. Um, those two guys, like just drafting that kind of talent or signing that talent, and in Flores's case, out of JUCOs and D2 and D3 schools, like that, I got to give them a lot of credit for finding really good talent like that.
Yeah, and I'm starting to give them the benefit of the doubt when they bring a guy in. I'll just sit back and
Just
watch, and I'm going
yeah,
to think they know something, and they've kind of proven their point over the last couple of years.
yeah.
And it's interesting. So the night I went to Hudson Valley, I didn't get to see Caden Kent play, but it was Core Jackson's debut. It was his first game. I think if with a little bit of a mechanical tweak, there's a lot of athleticism there and bat speed. That's a guy who next year I'm really interested to see.
Yeah, I was gonna bring him up, man. He's made a couple phenomenal plays, early on since his debut. I like what I'm seeing from the power side of things. That if I'm not mistaken, he's got about seven or eight extra base hits. Definitely an intriguing guy to keep an eye on. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what he does next season.
Yeah. I had to ask you this question too. Juan Matthews, he pronounces it Matthews?
Well, the announcers do, but it's
Yeah,
Mateus.
Matthias.
Okay, because when the PA announcer said Matthews, is that really how he says it?
Yeah, I get a
No.
lot of questions about that.
Okay.
Well, it's like the Clearwater guy. I was telling
Oh my God.
Carlos before. The Clearwater guy is. I mean, you know he's trying his best.
Arias.
The Tampa guy does. The Tampa team doesn't give enunciations on their roster like some of the other teams do. So like Mariano, he was pronouncing it Salomon because that's how you would look at it. But the Hispanic way of reading it is Salomon because that's how it should be. But he's just like Mariana Salomon, and I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's a Hispanic thing. It's just the way that the enunciation is with the Hispanic names. But they
Um,
just kind of take it in stride. It is what it is.
yeah, I asked him about the same thing. He's like, it is. That's just how they say it, but no, it's not.
Yeah,
I feel better now because I've been saying Mateus, and that makes more sense to me.
yeah,
Moving on to the pitching side of things, you had Kyle Carr who made his Double A debut today, was it? Or was it
yeah.
yesterday? It was today.
Today,
Last week he pitched six shutout innings. He just kept right on rolling. Six shutout innings, one hit, a walk, six strikeouts. Xavier Rivas, who was the Sal player of the month, or pitcher of the month, sorry. 6 innings, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. And if last I saw, he was doing about the same thing today.
He
Um,
had 10 strikeouts last I saw tonight, six
yeah,
innings.
I stopped watching when it was about 6 or 7 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Cade Smith, 5 shutout innings, is probably his best game of the season so far. 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and Jack Siebert, who pitched 2 shutout innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts, and that kid has looked really good. And I would not be surprised if the Yankees converted him to a starter going into next season.
Yeah, thanks to your videos of him. I really like him. I think he looks good.
Yeah, he's looked really good. I think he's had what, 2 games, is it? 3 games? But yeah, from what I've seen of him, it looks really good, man. Back to Xavier Rivas. We were talking about it before earlier today, John. His numbers didn't look that good coming out of Tampa. He had a few rough outings. I think he might have been working on secondary pitches. He was giving up a lot of walks from what I recall. But I mean, as soon as he got to Hudson Valley, he left all of that behind.
And like I mentioned to Los, when I saw him in person, especially his debut, he looked so good in his pro debut. Um, but his pitch shapes, the way that like the slider was coming in, like I don't care about the stats. If your pitches are moving the way they're supposed to be moving, even if the control isn't there, that's what's most important to me. The control you can work on. You have a lot of time in your career to work on that before you get to the majors. And that's the one thing that the Yankees are really good at is their pitching has been exceptional over the past couple of years. So just kind of seeing how he's been progressing, moving up the Hudson Valley and all that. Um, he was, like I mentioned to Los, he was their high risk, high reward pick, I think, last year
Mhm.
because he was coming off a Tommy John surgery from Ole Miss. But he was like, if you looked at the stats for Ole Miss, I think he had like a one and change ERA for um this was a sophomore year or junior year, I think, whatever it was that was the last time that he pitched with them. But when I was looking at his video from when he was at Ole Miss, it's the same kind of pitches, except they're just more refined now, as you would expect, as he's been with the system.
So if he had stayed healthy in college, they don't get him where they got him, would you say?
No,
No, I don't think so. A
he
lot
was
of people
supposed to
said
go
that.
third or fourth round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people he would have picked. He would have been gone by, like, let's say, the fifth round. I saw a lot of people say
Yeah,
And John, you've seen him in person, I'm assuming.
that.
yeah. I
I
saw his
mean,
pro debut. Yeah, I
yeah,
have video of it.
that's raw material. He looks
Yeah,
the part. So
yeah.
putting it, you can you don't have to squint to see him putting some things together and being a stud.
Oh yeah, yeah, easily. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of a Cam Schlittler kind of a development from when he was here. Now, obviously, they picked Cam higher, but at the same time, Cam was, I think, fifth round. And if Rivas would have gone third or fourth round, if he were healthy, you can kind of say that they're in a similar caliber of a pitcher.
Be nice if he has that kind of year next year where,
Yeah.
like Cam did, just
Yep.
tack another 4 or 5 miles an hour on the
Cam
fastball.
was what, seventh rounder, right?
I thought he was earlier than I thought he was like fifth.
No, he was seventh rounder.
Was he? Okay.
They
And
both sound
I was
right.
telling somebody today, as good as Rivas has been pitching, man, he makes the loss of Griffin Herring hurt a little less. And shout out to him. He was also the Northwest League Pitcher of the Month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spokane.
What a year for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably and him and like Lewis was telling me earlier, Rock Riggio, who Rock's been doing really good in Hartford, Double A Hartford. But I think the loss of Herring is going to hurt the most to me because he has so much potential to provide the Yankees. Now I understand, it's the way that it goes with the trade deadline, but
I will
um,
not never understand that Jake Bird trade. I don't understand that at all.
You won't understand it at the minimum for the next 7 months.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe next year.
Based off of
Maybe.
how I seen the return pitching in Scranton, yeah, no, no,
Maybe.
no.
Yeah.
Um, and by the way, Hudson Valley is in the playoff hunt. I think they're 4 games back of Greensboro, who they are playing this week. They took the first game. They got mollywopped yesterday. Today they were out to a 6-0 lead when I left the game. So I think they need to sweep the next 4 games in order to punch their ticket for the playoffs.
I think all of the other affiliates other than Tampa are in the playoff hunt.
Well, Scranton is 4 games up, I believe, in their division.
And then
I don't know.
Somerset's kind of there. I
Yeah, I think
think,
they're
right?
7 games out, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
are they?
I
Okay.
think
They were pretty close last I saw.
I could be mistaken.
I'm
Anybody in
kind of
the chat,
curious now.
feel free to correct me. I thought they were a few games out, more than a few games out.
I'm gonna look.
Let me move on to Somerset while we're on that subject. Then, Brendan Jones hit 348, 922 OPS, 2 extra base hits, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, 2 steals. Manuel Palencia hit 333, 667 OPS. And Brendan Jones has looked really good at Somerset. I mean, he continues to just hit.
The Somerset is 8 games out, but they're second place behind Binghamton, who clinched the first half. So I think the way that the rules go is if Somerset stays where they are, they're a game and a half up from Hartford. Somerset would make the playoffs
I
because you
think you're
can't
right
have
about
Okay,
that.
because
because
that's probably why Cusimano mentioned that um who was the team he mentioned?
Hartford is a game and a half back.
Yeah, he mentioned that they had lost, I think, yesterday.
Yeah, Hartford lost and Somerset's they've won 2 in a row.
Okay.
I just got to see Somerset play last week live, and Brendan Jones jumps out at you. And I saw him earlier in the year, and I don't want to say I saw a different guy this past week, but I saw a guy who looked like he had made him he maybe a better version of himself from earlier in the year. At the plate, I thought the swings looked better, driving the ball, and man, can that guy run. I went to the game with guys who don't really follow prospects the same way, and whenever somebody watches a person play and say, "Who's that guy?" You know they're doing something on the field that's impressive. So he jumped out when I saw him play.
That's another 12th round pick, by the way,
Yeah,
Jones.
right.
That's kind of their bread and butter area for picking really high
Yeah, those
quality
middle
talent.
rounds.
Yeah. The one thing that I would add with Brendan Jones is he carries himself like a true Yankee too. And that's kind of the nice thing to think about when you get to doing the interviews and that kind of thing. Now, I didn't get to interview him last year because he wasn't down here for that long.
Hmm.
But just kind of interacting with him in very limited fashion, looking at how he interacts with his teammates, it's very similar to how Dex Kilby carries himself, where he carries himself very professionally on the field. Um, and that's something that I know that the Yankees do look at when they're drafting the players. They don't want to draft any kind of knuckleheads that are going to create any kind of bad press for them.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's a better way of saying what I was trying to say, that he just looked confident on the field.
Yeah.
He looked the part. I mean, that he stood out as a guy who, I mean, that you could see him being a big leaguer. That's the way he looks now.
Yep. Yep. Polished, I guess.
Yeah, that's good.
The Yankee way.
There it is. Yeah.
Moving on to the pitching side of things, you had Danny Watson. He pitched 4 innings, 1 run allowed, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts, pitching a lot better of late. Zach Messenger, who was sent back down, I think that had to deal or coincided with the Trent Sellers going on the IL. Pitched 3 2/3 inning, allowed a run, 1 run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Michael Arias had probably the best week that I've seen him have. 3 shutout innings, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Indigo Diaz threw 2 2/3 shutout innings with 4 strikeouts.
And I'd like to personally apologize to Elmer Rodriguez Cruz for ruining his start that I went and watched, because it's the only bad start he's had, I think, since he's been in Somerset.
I I think that was it. Yeah.
And part of it was, I think I told you this, Carlos. It's not like he got smacked around, but he did give up a few hard hit balls. And then the home plate umpire looked like he had taken ill. I didn't see him get hit or anything, but there was a good 15, 20-minute break while the one of the field umps went out and got the home plate equipment, and they left him in. So he just kind of stood out there for about 20 minutes and then resumed the inning. And then they put some runs on the board against him. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to that one because we can chalk that up as an anomaly.
I mean, speaking of umpires, after I saw yesterday's Yankee game, um, I've seen some games from Somerset where I'm looking at game day and I'm like, what the hell is this ump looking at?
That's what I thought. I sat right behind home plate, and there were plenty of pitches that night where I don't know where that was.
Yeah, because I've seen that plenty of times happen to Carlos Lagrange. And I'm not. I didn't bring him up this week. He didn't have a good week. I think he gave up 6 walks in his last outing. I talked to him a little bit about that, and he just said he he was in his head too much. And it's one thing that I question, right? That I'm asking as I'm watching this. I'm like, the thing about Lagrange is when he's rolling, right? But sometimes if he hits a batter or if he takes a bad walk, it almost seems like he gets derailed. And I question, why isn't it that the catcher is not aware of this? Why isn't Raul Dominguez aware of this? And somebody go out and talk to him. Hey, calm down. It's just a walk. We got you. Don't worry about this. Put your head back into the game. Like no one ever does that for him. I haven't seen it. And if I'm wrong in the chats, you guys feel free to correct me or to point it out. But I just when a pitcher feels like he's been derailed or he's on the ropes, you don't see someone call timeout. Like, hey, take a breather, relax. We got it. We'll figure this out or something like that. It's just a keep letting him just keep going, keep going, keep going. Hello, the 18-second clock is going. We need to move on. Let's go get to the next pitch. Get the next pitch. At no point in time does someone call a timeout and just like go talk to him. Just
Or have a
bullshit. Just
strategy to
bullshit.
get him over the
Just
hump is
bullshit
what
for
you're
30
saying.
seconds. Like, hey,
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah. Should
I
be
think
like part of the strategy, right? Because we've seen that with other guys where things start to go wrong and they unravel.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's the developmental piece where, well, this guy can't progress till he learns how to deal with this. I think you're right. Having some kind of a strategy to get through that, that'd be a big deal.
Yeah, it's just okay.
yeah.
Let's break the flow because right now he looks derailed. Let's somebody go out there and talk to him and bring and reel him back in.
So I wonder if some of the strategy is not so much going out to the mound to kind of calm things down, but between innings, hey, this is what you did. This is how you got that walk. This is how you get into that situation. This is what you have to tell yourself on how to get out of it. I wonder if they because if you think about it, when you're in the major, you only have so many times you can go out to the mound. I don't think you have that restriction in the minor league just because of the developmental aspect. So I think if because he is kind of on his way to the majors with the way that he's been looking, I wonder if that's kind of part of what their strategy is. You know, they have to kind of treat him like he's going to be in the majors, but at the same time, I mean, Wells would go out and talk to Rodon tonight if things are starting to really spiral out of control.
Yep. And that's all I'm asking is why is that never taken into account? Like, just stop the game for 30 seconds. Let's go out there and just talk to him real quick. I don't. That's just
When
the thought that I have as I'm watching this.
when he says he gets into his head, do you think I think with a guy like him, I wonder he can throw 100 when things
I trying
start
to.
to go
I'm
wrong.
thinking. What
Does he
I'm
try
thinking.
to throw harder or does
No,
do
what
you
I'm
think he
thinking.
just gets fine
No,
with
what I'm
it?
thinking is that he's just trying to be too perfect.
I
Yeah.
was going to say
Like
that. Yeah, he's too hard on
Just trying to be
himself.
too perfect.
when you think about throwing strikes, it gets harder to throw strikes.
That's what I just think it is. When he's in his head,
Yeah.
it's just I'm thinking he's just trying to be too perfect, trying to dot the black, trying to maybe even reel back and throw a little bit harder.
Yeah. And for a guy who's pulled his mechanics together, you probably don't want him thinking too much about that either.
Yeah, because and I was talking about this with someone last week. I'm like, okay, yeah, he walked 6 batters, but look at the game before. In the game before, he only walked one.
Right.
Moving on to Scranton, Yorba Vivas hit 333, 922 OPS, 2 extra base hits, and RBI, 4 walks. You have Brennan Davis hit 286, 1341 OPS, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 3 walks. I just don't know what to make of Brennan Davis. Um, he kind of looks like Everson Pereira a little bit,
I'm a believer.
and in the same light where he just can't stay on the field.
So 151 plate appearances this year, but they're the best 150 plate appearances in the whole system. It leads the
Like
whole system in
it's a it's
WRC plus
it's like a minor
200.
it's a minor league version of Stan.
Right.
And he's the
I'm a
same size
believer.
too, I think too.
I mean, he can that would it would not surprise me if at the end of November when they set their 40-man roster that his name is on it. It would not surprise me. But you said the magic word. He's not been able to stay healthy for any
Like I
extended.
said, Everson Pereira, including with the injuries,
Yeah. Yeah.
except for maybe he hits a little better.
He might.
Yeah, because Everson isn't doing that great with Tampa right now. I think he's hitting like 140 something.
He got the first home run out of the way though.
Yeah.
Moving on to the pitching side of things, just Brendan Beck pitched 7 innings, one of his best games at Scranton. He pitched 7 innings, 1 run, one walk and 9 strikeouts.
Let me ask you this one. So the average major league fastball for a right-hander right now is 95 miles an hour. Brendan Beck, 89 to 91.
Hmm.
Do you think that he can pitch in the major leagues at 89 to 91 and be effective?
Well, I think his bread and butter is his control. And I've had this
Yep.
conversation with Nick, and Nick swears by that he could be a middle of the pack rotation arm. I,
Hmm.
I don't know if that's true. To me, he seems like he might be more of a reliever, but I'm always willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt and show me otherwise.
And I've heard Nick say that they just don't seem to hit him. They don't
Yeah, he's
seem to
got
be
great
able to square
command.
him up. And I watched him pitch live, and I expected his fastball to get tattooed, and he pitched well. It wasn't like he got lit up. I think he only gave up a run or two the night I saw him.
Mm,
And they were hitting his breaking ball when he didn't locate it. So I'm still not sure exactly how he does it all the time. And I don't know what that looks like at the next level. But it's hard to argue that he hasn't been successful this year or really
absolutely, he's
successful
having a
this
great season. I
year.
mean,
Yeah.
I'll ask you, bro, that oppose it to you. Is he a right-handed version of Edgar Barclay?
I was going to say more like a Marcus Stroman because if you look at what Marcus Stroman was doing before he got DFA'd, he was like that same kind of a upper 80s, low 90s kind of a pitcher, except he just didn't have the control. But I mean, if considering the career that Stroman had, because he was in the majors for quite a while
Hmm.
between the Cubs and the Mets and all that, um, I think that's kind of the comparison that I would provide would be that kind of a pitcher, but with maybe a little bit better control. Barclay, I think, is a better fit in the bullpen as opposed to being a starter. I've always felt like that just because of
Hmm.
how slow he throws.
Yeah, I always questioned why he was put in the rotation, especially when he was so good as a reliever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that really hindered his progression. But
This means nothing because it's obviously so subjective. But watching Barkley pitch live, I never got the impression that that's a guy who was going to pitch at the next level. No disrespect to him, even though that. But when I watched Brendan Beck, I can see it. I
Hmm.
just don't know that this stuff is going to translate. But you can see a big league pitcher there.
I think for me, the control is more important than the velo. I've always said that. I'd rather have you throw a 93 and you know exactly where that ball's going than 100 and it might hit someone in the head or it might hit, it might bounce off the dirt.
Moving on to my next topic was just checking in on some of the draft and IFA kids. I'm sorry, the UDFA kids. We've already spoken about Dax Kilby, spoke a little bit about Caden Kent. He's got a couple big hits. Same thing for Core Jackson. He's got, I don't remember what it's a, I think I want to say 7 extra base hits. He's made a few great plays on the field. Jackson Lovich, I've already mentioned. He's looked really, really good down in Tampa. Jack Sieber is another one. Eric Ganther has had moments as well. He did hit his first home run. I believe he hit his first home run already. Tyler Boudreau also is another one. Um, I don't know who else I'm missing somebody else. I know him.
Bonamolo, I've seen.
Bonamalo, right? Grudzalanic.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I'm impressed so far with what I've seen from the draft kids.
yeah. And I wrote up an article for Yankee Savant about some of the draft kids that I saw. Um, I gave Bonamalo a comp. I forget what it is now. I have to go look it up. But yeah, I really liked what I saw of Bonamalo.
Mhm. And I'm surprised that we've seen Jack Sieber, who I think he was a 15th round pick in this year's draft. And typically that's not something that we see from the Yankees, or we haven't seen in the last 3, 4 years.
Yeah, right. It's almost an automatic that we won't see any of the pitchers.
Yes, I was very surprised when I saw him.
Yeah.
So
So
good.
the comp that I gave Bonamalo was just a physical comp was Brett Gardner
Mm.
because 5'11", 195, both similar kind of frames. Um, I don't expect him to be a Brett Gardner kind of a thing, but he has bat speed, I would say, similar to Clint Frazier. Really, really high bat speed. And then Kyle West was really impressive too, the
Yes,
little
Kyle
bit that I
West.
saw him.
Do you know what the injury was?
I think it was a wrist injury or something along those lines.
Yeah, Kyle West was another. I forgot to mention him. He did look really good early on before the injury.
Yeah.
Um,
But
so are you guys? Were you gonna say something else?
no, I just again, I'm really happy with this draft class. The UDFA's, like you said, have been really impressive. Jack Siebert, I kind of had my eye on him when he was down here in playing for USF. Um, Kind of one of those guys because USF obviously they're going to be the one that gets all the TV time per se down here in Tampa, being the local college. So I saw it. I don't know if I saw him in February last year when I went to see a tournament, but he was one of the names that the scouts were talking about. I know that, so I'm happy that he was picked up as an undrafted free agent as opposed to being signed, 20th round somewhere else or something like that.
Moving on to the topic at hand, that this is what I really wanted to talk about today was player progression from, let's say, Tampa to Hudson Valley. Um, and this is something that's it's kicked around a lot in Yankees Twitter. What is player development and what is the expectation? Is player development just a player graduating from one level to the next, getting a player to the major leagues, or a player becoming a star like an Aaron Judge? To you guys,
Marcus, I'll let you go first.
Um, if I understand the question, so I would look at you're just talking about in general. You're talking
in
about from a
general,
Yankee
yeah,
standpoint. Yeah. So in
because
general,
in
you're
Yankee Twitter, even in baseball Twitter, people constantly talk about how the Yankees can't develop players.
yeah. It's hard to say that right now. I mean,
But how do you
sure.
define that?
You can look at an Anthony Volpe and be disappointed that he's not a superstar right now, or he's not the type of player that you wanted him to be. But it's hard to argue that taking a guy at the back of the first round out of high school, and then you're starting shortstop in the big leagues, whatever it was, 3 years later, that's a pretty good job of player development. In essence, I think it's a player development win when they get a guy through the draft or through international free agency and they get him to the big leagues because you can't develop to a higher level than that other than, like you said, to become a regular and then a star in the big leagues. But that's just rarefied air. Air has a lot to do with that, of course, and probably what's between the ears matters quite a bit as far as that goes.
I
But
laugh because
taking
good.
taking guys like we've mentioned from these, playing in front of friends and family at a school nobody's heard of, and then having them a year later in Hudson Valley, uh, hitting home runs in front of a decent sized crowd under the lights and showing up on top 30 lists. They're able to make adjustments with these guys. They're seeing something that they can then help them maximize on the field and progress with. So from a Yankee standpoint, I think they're doing a good job with player development. Um, I just think that maybe the expectations are a little outsized for what the results are ending up being. I don't look around the league and say, well, look at this team. They just produce star after star after star. I look around the league, I see a lot of guys who are in the Yankee organization
I
playing
mean,
for
but
other teams.
even if you look around the league, do you really see a lineup with star after star after star that of
No, I
one
don't. I
player?
think that's the
I
point.
think
I don't see
I
that.
think the closest might be the Dodgers.
And even then, they
Maybe.
didn't develop those guys.
Yeah, a lot of them were not developed by them.
Right.
Maybe Atlanta is another one. But I asked this because I've asked this question to someone in the Yankees, and they're like, well, you know, our job is to get a player from one level to the next, and then to the big leagues, right?
Yep.
And then they pointed to me and said, look, I mean, look at our 2014 IFA classes, which everybody laughed about, right? Because of all these high, you know, signing bonuses that we gave out in that class. And they're like, but about 7 or 8 of those guys got to the big leagues.
Right. That's right.
And you look at like the Yes Network right now has the next series probables, right? So Cam Schlittler is going tomorrow. He has a 2.61 ERA. He's a homegrown kid.
Hmm.
Luis Hill's going on Saturday, 3.68 ERA. He's a homegrown IFA kid. Max Fried, obviously, he
Well,
was
they
acquired.
traded for him, but I still think he counts because they got him when he was
Before he
in
got
his
That's what I'm saying.
teenager.
Yeah, he got
Yeah.
him. They got
if,
him
if
so young. I think
to
he
me,
Right.
counts.
if
He
you got him,
counts.
if you got him before AA and you developed him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think what you were saying, Los. I think the way that Yankee fans need to look at it is Jason Dominguez isn't going to be a perennial All Star. That was way too lofty of an expectation.
It's still too early to say that.
Yeah, well, so he was
He's
labeled
not
as a
going to be Mickey Mantle.
transcendent player
Well,
when he was 16. That wasn't fair.
I'm sorry,
That's
but
my
to me,
point.
that was absolutely ridiculous. The Mickey Mantle
That's my point. I think the
Yeah,
point
comps.
was
I think that was basically to bump up his signing bonus. Like
probably
if you
so.
can't understand that, then I don't know what to tell you.
But
well,
what my
that's a
point,
great example. I think that's a great example because the expectation has blurred a development win.
yeah,
Him being in the big leagues and being a productive player, which I think he is
At 20.
at his age, I think this is a great development win for the organization and for him.
and then you look at like Volpe, like he's going to be the next cheater. I think that's a lofty expectation. When he was in Tampa, the plays that he was making compared to everybody else, yeah, he looked like the next cheater. But now when he's in the major leagues, I mean, he just made a good play to make the third out in a Yankee game, but he also made a play before that. It was Jeter would have made a better play. That's just me because Volpe doesn't have that kind of an arm. But to give, I think the problem that the Yankee fans have is they have really lofty expectations, and then when a kid makes the major leagues, well, this isn't what I was sold on. What happened to that kid?
But
And I
but
think that's the job of some of us that cover the minor leagues and look at these kids day in day out. I think that's why a lot of people follow myself, Los, Marcus, and a lot of other people that look at the minor leagues on a daily basis, and we can kind of say, you got to kind of temper things. This is what they're doing. This is what they're putting out. And when they go from Tampa to Hudson Valley, yes, it is a jump in many ways, but I think the biggest jump that you're going to see from Tampa to Hudson Valley is the weather. That's the one thing that I've gotten feedback from a lot of the kids because especially the IFA kids, they've never played at anything colder than like 60 degrees. And then they start in April and it's like what 40s, 50s sometimes.
Yes. And I just
And
thought about this. Yeah, like I was there August 6th, and once it gets dark, it really cools off and it's dark.
yeah,
Uh, so that that the dew starts to set in and so it's like, well, you're not playing in
and
anything like you just did in Florida. It's not
and
even close.
and there's also shifting weather patterns, right? Because I
yep,
have people in Florida in New Jersey that now that tell me, hey, it's August and I have to bring my jacket out.
Right.
yeah. Whereas like I can go to any game any time of the season in Tampa and I can go in a polo and shorts. And it doesn't matter because it's not going to get like this morning when I went to work at 5:30 this morning, it was 80 degrees.
One other thing that I did want to touch on this, I think I might have even mentioned it before. A lot of the time, this expectation that Yankee fans have, I'm, I can't really think, with except for the exception being Volpe, the Yankees hyping up their own prospects. That's not done by them. That's done by publications like Baseball America or even Pipeline. They're not the ones that come out and say, "Hey, this
Correct.
guy's going to be the greatest thing ever." No, that's not the Yankees.
Correct.
The
The
Yankees
Yankees would
give you
never
a
do
very
that.
bland answer
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
See, that's what
Oppenheimer
I
was not.
thought too. I asked that question in a chat. I want to say with one of the writers. I say I keep hearing about the Yankees hyping their prospects. Is that something they do? And the person said, absolutely they do.
I don't see it.
Didn't
No.
expound on it,
The
but I
only
thought,
the only time I've ever seen that was the famous Cashman running with last season with was it with Clapp?
yeah, with Joel Sherman.
Well, Sherman, right? That's the only time. But even that, he wasn't. That was it was the second season, I think it was.
He's not a prospect. He would have
Yeah, he wasn't a
graduated then.
prospect at
Yeah,
that point. He wasn't a
right.
prospect anymore. But I haven't seen a case where the Yankees are quote unquote hyping up their prospects. I
Well,
don't know where that comes from.
my
Yeah.
point to the writer was all these teams have these huge analytical departments and scouting armies. Who cares what somebody from the Yankees says then? That's gonna change their opinion of this guy that they presumably have scouted and have tons of video on and reports on. Oh, because they read something in Baseball America? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't think Oppenheimer would run his scouting division like that either, the scouting department, because I've had a very brief interaction with Oppenheimer and just kind of working around the Yankees for so many years, and they don't seem to operate that way. The only reason that I would see them doing anything like that is right around the trade deadline. You have a lot of scouts, but even still, scouts come up to me, "Hey, do you watch this team on a regular basis? Who do you like?"
Hmm.
If they were getting that hype from the Yankees, they would have known who to keep an eye on.
That I think the trade deadline is another good example of what we're talking about here. What did they trade? 16 prospects at the trade deadline?
Mhm.
and they're not supposed to have an upper third or upper half system in the game. I mean, look at the guys they traded who had value. Parks Harbor goes from undrafted free agent to being a valued piece in a trade, and is a performer. The types of guys that they develop in a short period of time. Riggio taken off this year gave them. I felt better about the system after the trade line than I did before it, and that's after all those guys left. A lot of them who I really liked. But I think they're doing a great job of helping these players get someplace pretty quickly. The other point I was thinking about, Carlos, I don't understand why fans' expectations would be so. I would understand it being the age I am. I was the right age when the dynasty years happened. When Jorge Posada comes up and he stays at that level of all-star production. Jeter did that. Bernie Williams did that. All these guys came up and they stayed great. Now people are frustrated because guys come up and we're excited about them and they either level off or they start to fall off in a short period of time. Nobody should really be spoiled 20, 25 years after the fact, but I think that's frustrating people that their guys aren't ascending once they get to the big leagues the way they want to see them do it.
And it's not just that;
Yeah.
it's also the matter of I watched the Yankees when they sucked before the dynasty,
Right.
so it wasn't. And I feel like maybe younger Yankee fans have this idea of the core four just jumping on the scene and they were great. It didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. They were all not good when they first debuted. All of them, even up to Judge, they all just were not good. It took
Right.
it took years for some of them. It took Bernie 3 years to take off before he became a decent player. Derek
Right.
Jeter was, I think he was almost traded his first season. The Yankees wanted to trade for another shortstop. Mariano Rivera was so bad as a starter, they put him in the bullpen. Jorge Posada wasn't even a starter until I think year three, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
He was the backup.
Aaron Judge had a nearly 50% strikeout rate his first time in the big leagues.
Right.
There's just no patience. I mean, if fans are expecting you know, players to debut and they're just going to become all stars, and it doesn't always work that way. Not everybody's going to be Juan Soto, not everybody's going to be Mike Trout or Bryce Harper. It just doesn't work that way. The Yankees don't pick that high.
And something else to keep in mind is I remember when Aaron Judge was in the minors with Gary Sanchez, and my manager at the time, he was a Tigers fan, so he kind of knew of the Yankees and a little bit about the system. And he was like, "Wow, I can't wait for Gary Sanchez to make the majors." And I said, "No, he's not going to be the star. It's going to be Aaron Judge." And I can kind of tell already in the minors kind of what I was seeing, but all the hype was behind Gary Sanchez. And if you look at the two of them now, Gary Sanchez is not being talked about by anybody, and Aaron Judge he's in. I mean, behind Cal Raleigh, who I think doesn't really hold a candle to Judge for MVP discussion, but he's the two of them are right there.
One of my oldest tweets on my old account was the Yankees need to put this team to bed already. Call up Aaron Judge, call up Gary Sanchez, call up, I forgot who else it was. And then the last guy was Rob Breff Snyder. And somebody asked me, who's Aaron Judge? uh, um, One other topic I wanted to touch on was I mentioned player progression going from Tampa to Hudson Valley. And the reason I bring that up is because of Roderick Arias. I've wondered and asked and questioned why he hasn't already been promoted. I know he's not having the greatest of seasons. I know he's had a rough season. He'll even tell you that himself. But I went back and looked at some of the Yankees' top hitting prospects throughout the years, right? Starting with Anthony Volpe at 20, he played in Tampa. He played 54 games in Tampa. He hit 302, 455 on base percentage, 1078 OPS, 35 extra base hits, 12 home runs, 49 RBIs. The kid looked like a star at Tampa. That same year he moves on, or the next year he moves on to Hudson Valley. He plays 55 games there. He hits 286, 977 OPS, 36 extra base hits, 15 home runs. Austin Wells at 21. He played 65 games at Tampa. He hit 258, 877 OPS, 30 extra base hits, 9 home runs. He moves on to Hudson Valley. He hits 294, 912 OPS, 27 extra base hits, 13 RBIs. Jason Dominguez at 18 and 19 plays a combined 129 games at Tampa. He hits 266, 792 OPS, 44 extra base hits, 14 RBIs. He has a walk rate of 13%, strikeout rate of 28%. He moves on to Hudson Valley for 40 games. He hits 306, 906 OPS, 16 extra base hits, 6 home runs, 12 and a half walk rate, 18 and a half K rate. Augustine Ramirez at 21. He plays 56 games at Tampa. He hits 245, 780 OPS, 14 extra base hits, 7 RBIs. He moves on to Hudson Valley. He hits 384, 1144. I mean, he went absolutely bananas at Hudson Valley. Ben Rice played 3 seasons with Tampa. He was 21, 23, 24. He had 257, 812 OPS, 28 extra base hits. He moves on to Hudson Valley for just 15 games because that league just couldn't hold him. He had
Right.
340, he had 347 with I believe it was an 1882 OPS, 4 extra base hits, 2 RBIs. I mean, he had a walk rate of nearly 30% in that league. Spencer Jones hit 325, 905 OPS, 3 home runs. He wasn't at Tampa long, 22 games. He moves on to Hudson Valley. We know the rest. George Lombard at Tampa. He was 18 and 19 years old, played 90 games there. He hit 236 with a 695 OPS, 25 extra base hits, 5 home runs. He moves on to Hudson Valley. He plays 53 games there. He hits 269, 766 OPS, 18 extra base hits, and he increases the walk rates and decreases the strikeout rate. So my point is that once they get to Hudson Valley, everything just seems to get better for some reason for most of these guys. Why Roderick Aria hasn't given the opportunity to move on, learn a different coaching?
But that seems to always be the story, though. They always seem to be really late promoting. Organizationally, they're always really late promoting. I mean, if you look at like Marshall Toole down here, he should have been promoted long ago.
Yeah, I agree there.
We were saying the same thing with Jared Sarno when he
Well, hold
was
on.
here. Even the GM was saying that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hold on one second. I just want to bring up one more point. Um, Jason played 129 games at Tampa. I'm looking at Roderick, not counting the last 2 days. He's played 223 games at Tampa.
I believe it though. Yeah, and it's but like what we were discussing off air before we started recording, he's been really hot and cold. He's not
Mhm.
consistent, and I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the consistency. Now,
Why is it? But it's okay
to
with Volpe.
but well, I was just going to play devil's advocate. If you play devil's advocate, you can look at how Lombard was because Lombard was he was not doing really well
At
that
Tampa,
that first year. No,
he had 236 combined
yeah,
over 90 games.
and it took him a long time to get going last year.
Even at Hudson Valley when he was first promoted, he did not hit well up until those last few games and into the playoffs. That's when the power started. I think he hit 8 doubles over the last, I want to say 6 or 7 games, including the playoffs. I think he hit about 280, I want to say, over those last 6, 7 games.
But if I remember correctly, last year Roderick was getting hot a
Hmm.
lot quicker and a lot longer than Lombard was, and Arias deserved to go up last year at the end of
Yeah,
last year.
I was just gonna say that when Lombard got promoted at the time, between July 1st, I believe, and the end of the season, Roderick, if I'm not mistaken, hit about 285. And
Yeah, I
then
was going to
at
say
the
about 300.
time,
Yeah,
yeah, at the time, Lombard was hitting like 220, I want to say.
yeah, yeah. He was just starting to figure things out.
It seems like a process over results thing then.
That's kind of what it is. It's not. I don't care how well you're hitting. It's the fundamentals have to be there to I guess to get called up.
Like
Now, obviously,
how do your at bats look?
yeah, you have to, and I think that's part of Roderick's thing is his swing decisions aren't always there because he's swinging at a lot of junk.
Well, I mean, now you have him at the point where he's just completely frustrated. This season was a wash for him. Like,
And
I don't
I get
understand why
that.
you let it get to that point.
Yeah. And it's I don't know if it's an IFA thing because it's been kind of a trend to be an IFA thing in some respects, just
I
kind of
mean,
over the
and
years.
if you go back to even this, in this season alone, when Brendan Jones was promoted, he wasn't hitting well. I think
No.
he
True.
was hitting around 220, 230 when he got the promotion.
But they again, it's they looked at the mechanics and they look at the way that he's taking his at bats. And it's like you can be striking. I mean, like you look at Spencer Jones, like his strikeout rate was ridiculous. But they look at the mechanics and everything, and yeah, okay, I guess you're worthy of getting promoted. That's the way that I understand that.
I'm trying to stay. I want to get talked off the Roderick Arias ledge. He's only 20, right?
Hmm.
And I would understand if right now his head's on a swivel because he's starting to get crowded out. I mean, you've got Jackson who's going to probably be playing shortstop someplace. Kilby who's supposed to be a shortstop. Um,
Roderick has been
I mean,
playing a lot more
it's
third base this year. Well,
what's that?
I think
His
he's
arm
played
is
more
better
third
at
base this
third.
season.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, look, there's a place for him somewhere in the infield. I wonder. You mentioned John about him going outside the strike zone, which is a problem. With only four minor league levels now, excluding the complex leagues, I wonder what a separator it is. Like if you take, I thought about this with Spencer Jones when he went from double A to triple A. The pitching just keeps getting more refined as you move up the ladder. So like if you go from Tampa to Hudson Valley, the guys in the Sally League are going to be throwing more strikes, maybe. Is that
Theoretically,
better?
yeah.
Yeah, I would assume the command is getting it's improving.
Would that be better then for Roderick to be facing guys who are around the plate more
And
often? And
that's
let's see what
kind of
that looks like.
that's my argument though, is
Yeah, I saw
if
someone make that same argument with Spencer in regards to Spencer Jones.
I think it was Bobby Malone who did that. Yeah.
Mm.
but I mean that it makes sense. Like if you're not throwing that junk, that's because low A baseball is not the best, obviously. Right? Like if your command is good, then you deserve to be in high A in a
He
couple
won't be there
weeks.
for long.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's kind of part of the problem. And I think getting back to the core question, I think that's why so many of these prospects like Jason Dominguez really figured things out in high A as opposed to down here in Tampa. Like that's kind of the one standout for me is how much of a difference he was when he was in Tampa versus when he was in Hudson Valley. Because they're throwing more quality pitches than they are in down here in Tampa or anywhere else in the Florida State League. And that's kind of been my argument of why why they should have promoted Roderick a while ago. Because I think, like Lo said before, it's sink or swim. You got to figure it out
Hmm.
because it's it doesn't make sense for him as a prospect to hold him back. If you're not going to give him the chance, trade him or let him go, or figure something out. He
Pretty
deserves
much.
an opportunity with another organization. Then
Yeah, if you don't see a way forward for him, then yeah, let him figure it out somewhere else. I'm saying because you know what? He's looking to his left now. He's got Dax Kilby. He looks to his right. He has Core Jackson. He's looking this behind him, and Juan Diasejan is coming up soon.
and then you look at like at second base, you got Juan Mateus playing second base.
Well,
You
he's
got
playing third base at Hudson Valley, but
Yeah.
I think he's a
yeah, but
second
you know what I'm
baseman.
saying though. And
You've
then
got
like
Tejeda. You've got, there's a lot
It's
of guys
really
now.
more of a
there's
second
a lot
base.
of talent all over the place that's gonna obstruct his progression, and they need to do something. Even if it's like, I mean, even if it was just for this week, like they should have promoted him just the 1 week and see what happens.
Like they did with Kyle Carr.
Yeah, there were a lot of promotions around baseball for the last week of baseball, just kind of for the hell of it.
All
So
right.
you would think coming next year,
Hmm?
you'd think he's got to be
I mean,
naturally promoted to start next year. We kind of
yeah,
thought it would
because
happen this year.
what was it
But
that Yogi Berra says? It gets late fast.
Yeah. Right.
but then at the same time, with the way that Kilby's performing now, you would expect him to start in Hudson Valley. We didn't have any good shortstops in, not that it really matters, but we didn't really have any good shortstops in complex league. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see Arias here for at least a month or so next year.
That would be crazy.
It
I
would
mean,
be
then
Yeah.
crazy,
again,
but I wouldn't.
Ben Rice. That happened to Ben Rice. He did last three seasons there.
Yeah, I mean, and and it's funny because he played more first base than he did catcher, if I
He
remember
did.
correctly.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about Ben Rice today when I was looking at these numbers. I was like, damn, he spent 3 seasons there, but he didn't really get his opportunity until luck would have it. Antonio Gomez had the injury where they put him on the development list because of the eyesight problem that he was having, and then that's when Ben Rice finally got put into the lineup every day.
And it's just like what's happening with the Yankees.
I don't know though. I mean, Arias is a special case to consider here because it's not like they don't believe in him, right? They've going back to the hype thing, the breakout team last year, he's in the starting lineup as a 19-year-old, right?
And
And
he
then
was
he
pretty good in the
was again
FCL.
this year,
He
right?
was pretty good in the FCL. Last season, he finished the season on fire.
Yep. And we thought that was the springboard into Hudson Valley, and it didn't happen because all right, we can understand they're splitting. He and Lombard are going to let them both play every day, and it just hasn't worked out. And did he get dinged up a little bit this year too? That I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, he
forgetting
wasn't.
about.
He spent some time on the. I mean, at this point, I think he just has to be in his head because nothing seems to be going right for him.
Yeah,
The strikeout rate is ridiculous right now. He did get hot a little bit in. He did get hot in August. I want to say. I think if I'm not mistaken, he hit about 280 in August, which was his best month so far. But he seems to be regressing over the last week or so. Think
yeah.
he's. I don't remember what the numbers look like for the last week or so, but
A lot of guys in that lineup are hitting, and he's not one of them right now.
yeah, especially the draft kids.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, that's got to be getting in his head
Yep.
because these kids have only been here a couple of weeks and they're already making an impression. I've been here 2 years and I'm not getting a second look.
Yeah, man, I saw an at bat from him today where he struck out. I think it was a changeup away. And yo, the look that he had on his face was like, oh my God. Like I felt bad for the guy.
But
Yeah.
he's had that all year though. Like every time, I mean, I didn't see a lot of games this year, but every time that I'd go and I'd see him and he's just in the on deck circle, he's like, oh God, not this again. Like that's kind of it's got to be in his head, I think, at this point. And I'm not trying to put any, words in anybody's mouth or anything,
No,
but
this is our
that's
opinion.
just kind of how it looks like.
Yeah, that's our observation.
Yeah.
Well, how much of this is between the ears? So if you're not confident and you're playing, I don't know how you're supposed to be successful on the baseball field if you don't,
If you can't
you're
figure it out
not
in the
going out
way,
there
yeah.
with all this stuff on your mind. And like you said, I don't know what he's thinking, but we can understand if someone's got a lot going through their head here. Um, that could definitely get in your way.
Yeah, there's a
Well,
lot
and
of variables here.
the other thing you have to think about is in Tampa, there is no media. I'm kind of it. When you start getting into Hudson Valley, you start getting that New York media that's an hour or so away for a drive. If they want to do an interview, or you can have NY12 there doing stuff, or kind of whatever. You don't have that in Tampa, so you have all the room in the world to make all the mistakes you want to do and get as much development as you can under your belt. Once you start getting into Hudson Valley and Somerset, you start getting that media breathing down your neck, and you start getting more fans
Yeah, bigger crowds.
because down here, I mean, they had a 5,000 uh, plus attendance the other night for fan appreciation night, but that's the biggest crowd a lot of these kids have ever seen. A lot of the IFA kids.
I think in yesterday's Clearwater game, in the second game, I don't know about the first game, but I noticed in the second game, there was no one in the stadium.
They had like 1,200 people, I think, which for Clearwater is tiny. Saturday should be big. You should see about 8,000 people. That should be a sellout.
What kind of kid is Roderick? I mean, personality wise, would he be someone where, put him in an environment where there's more energy and
Yeah,
he's
he.
that kind of kid?
That's why he did well in FCL because there's a lot more energy.
Hmm. That's
But
something to
when
think about too.
and
Like,
it comes to the managerial style. That might be part of it too, and that's why I was thinking that a lot of these kids should have done better under Rachel Belkovic. But then if you look at like Jason, he did not because Jason and Rachel were besties in a way because
Mhm.
that was their first year together in 2021. First year for her in the Yankee system, and first year for him, obviously. For first full year, I guess. And they kind of developed together. They moved up in the system in that fashion, but he became a totally different player once he moved to Hudson Valley.
And to
So
your point, Roderick played for the Hudson Valley manager when he was in the FCL, correct? When they won the
Yeah,
championship?
James
yeah,
Cooper.
Yeah.
and last year,
Yeah.
it wasn't James was down here last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Hmm. So maybe there's something to that too.
All right, I'm gonna leave it on that, guys. Thank you for coming on. As always, appreciate you. Guys in the chat, if you could just hit that like button. If you haven't hit the subscribe, make sure you go ahead and do that. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Good night, guys.
Night.